Well, joining us now is Congressman Devin Nunes, ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, member of the House Ways and Means Committee, a man who does what he says he's going to do and has been doing it for the past 3.5 years. Congressman, great to have you with us. I know that there's got to be some discomfort when you hear me sort of goad Senator Graham, but we have seen so much unctuous, asinine nonsense from him when he sits on the most powerful, one of the most powerful committees in the Senate. Is there a chance in hell that he will do what he said?
Well, look, I'm hopeful that both Senator Graham and Senator Johnson, who I know are trying to bring people in and do depositions. As it relates to Mueller, I said this yesterday on Fox Business. There needs to be a subpoena immediately sent for Mueller. This guy was so far out of bounds. What he did was so corrupt. And in fact, I'm quite sure he did not write that op-ed on Friday night, just like he wasn't running the investigation that went on for 2 years. Mm-hmm. So, when he came before the Congress about a year ago, about almost a year ago now, right. He clearly didn't even know what was in his own report. And when he got to investigating Roger Stone and Jerome Corsi, these political gadflies, why didn't he investigate Fusion GPS? Why did he not figure out that it was Fusion GPS and the Clinton campaign that had been talking to Christopher Steele, who was talking to Russians? There was your Russian meddling that you had in this election. Yeah. So he was supposed to look at Russia collusion when in fact he knew the Trump campaign from the day he walked in the door that there was nothing there. So, I don't know what Senator Graham, Senator Johnson are going to do, but look, we have to continue, Lou. I take their calls. I give them all the information that I possibly can, just like I continue to make criminal referrals to the Justice Department.
Right. Right. Well, and the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, let's focus on what he said. What we have not yet had, if we can put up this quote, please, what we have not yet had full visibility on is not Barr's use of the shield to protect corruption writ large of his boss. This man wants to be a playwright? Are you kidding me? Donald Trump, but the sword, how he may be using the power of the Justice Department through, what do you do with him? I mean, you're talking about Mueller, who's obviously impaired, and this guy is obviously confused. At least his language is.
Look, this is nothing new. It's just all you have to do is take whatever they're saying is, whatever they accuse you of is actually what they're doing. So who took advantage of the Justice Department? It was the Democrats. I still want to know, when did Pelosi and her crew, when did they know in 2016 about the dossier of Trump-Russia collusion? I mean, because we knew at the time the Senate Democrat leader, now retired Harry Reid, he was briefed on this in August of 16. No Republicans knew about this except for John McCain later in the fall. So these are all questions that remain. They need to be answered when we continue to fight every single day, Lou, to get these answers. I mean, I want you and your viewers to know that there's not a day goes by, 7 days a week. Me and my team, the House Republicans, are working on this, and we will work with anyone who wants to get to the truth.
And I want to ask you about that very quickly. We've got just a few seconds here remaining. But John Durham's investigation, I want to take your temperature, as I always do, on whether or not you now think something will come of it, and will it be before the election?
Yeah, look, I'm confident that Durham's doing a thorough investigation. People have to remember, this is a sprawling investigation that stretches on from 2015 to the Mueller probe. So he's got to get it right. What I worry about is this next election is critical, because if Biden somehow was to pull off a victory here, all this will be buried, and we will then be left with a totally corrupt Department of Justice and FBI that will never get fixed, and it will take this country into a level of chaos that we have not seen if these prosecutions are not brought and people are not held to justice and put in jail.
With that statement, how in the world could the Attorney General and Durham not bring charges before the election?
Well, look, I think they will. I think they know that and I think they can. I'm not worried about this whole political issue because these are people that are not politicians. These were people that supposedly were working for our government. So these are not people that would sway the November election one way or the other. So I think they should bring it, even if it's October 15th.
Well, and the American people should always go to the polls with the best current information they have about how corrupt their government has been. Congressman Devin Nunes, always great to talk with you.